Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night, Font versus Garbrandt. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a great card. This was a great all-around card, and most importantly, the judging was on point. The judging was basically stellar. Practically stellar. We had no real issues. Everything was tight-knit. There are a couple niggles here and there, but the most important thing is that there were no robberies, there were no injustices for the entire night. Now, this hasn't happened for, I can't remember the last card I scored that every final decision was correct. We just have a couple, like we have before, honorable mentions, and we'll just jump into them. First honorable mention is for McGee versus Silva. My scorecard was a 30-27 for McGee. For the judges' scorecards, Mike Bell had it 29-27. Derek Clearly had it 30-26, and Bird also had it 30-26. The honorable mention is going to go to all three of them because I just don't like the way they scored these ones. For Bird and for Clearly, the scorecard is correct up until the second round where they give a 10-8 for McGee, and the 10-8 was for when he got a takedown for practically the entire round. He was on top. He had a takedown, he had ground and pound, and that's where their 10-8 comes from. The issue, though, is that Silva had a submission attempt, a pretty significant submission attempt in the middle, close to the end, but in the middle of that round. He was also active from the bottom the entire round. Again, you can go back into the archives. This is a common theme of if the person on bottom is active, it's not a 10-8. It's only when they're getting... Again, there was a card that was scored perfectly later in this fight. Hermansson versus Shahbazyan. He got a 10-8 for that third round, and it wasn't just because Hermansson was giving out crazy ground and pound. It was because Hermansson just wasn't fighting back. Hermansson was just defending himself the entire round. That round was a 10-8. Yes, mainly because Hermansson dominated him in that round, but because Hermansson just wasn't giving anything back. In that second round of the McGee versus Silva fight, Silva was active from the bottom, hence the submission attempt that came later on, him also punching McGee while he was on bottom. So that honorable mention goes to them for that round. And then you have Mike Bell, who gave a 10-9 to Silva in that third round, and that kind of confuses me because McGee gets dropped by a leg kick at the very top of the round, and sprinkled into that final round, McGee gets 2 takedowns, both with ground and pound. Silva also active from the bottom. This wasn't a big knockdown by Silva by any means. This was he knocks him down with the leg kick, gets back up, and McGee takes him down twice. Both of them with ground and pound. Still, while Silva is fairly active from the bottom, but 2 takedowns while giving out ground and pound is obviously his round. I don't understand how you can give that to Silva in any way, shape, or form. But sometimes you do have some rounds that just don't make sense. And I assume it didn't make sense to Bell here, but it is what it is. So that an honorable mention to Mike Bell as well. We have another honorable mention for Ramos versus Algeo. I'm just going to say Algeo. This fight was also very close, but it was pretty obvious who won each individual round. I had it 29-28 with Ramos getting a 10-9 in the first and the third round, and Algeo getting a 10-9 in the second. The judges' scorecards read 30-27 for Mike Bell, 29-28 for Derek Curley. He reflects my scorecard, and Derek Colon also giving out a 30-27. Now, the reason, I guess, the point of contention between Mike Bell and Eric Colon and me is we disagree on the second round. The second round goes to Algeo solely for the reason that he outstrikes Ramos. He outstrikes him. Yes, Ramos got 2 takedowns in that round, but the issue here, the thing that they failed to see, again, is that though Ramos got 2 takedowns, none of them were effective. None of them mattered. They were irrelevant, right? Again, go back into the archives where I talk about when are takedowns relevant. When you do something with the takedowns, right? He gets a takedown in that second round, at the top of the second round, where Algeo gets up very quickly, right? Takedown doesn't matter. Then, and in the final seconds of that second round, he gets another in the waning seconds. I mean, nothing. It's 0. It doesn't complete the round. The round wasn't close enough. No, Algeo was outstriking him well enough to win that round, and those takedowns to not be influential at all. That round kind of mirrors the first round a little bit to me, the Garbrandt versus Font fight, which I'll get into later. But, again, honorable mention for Mike Bell and Eric Clunt. It was close via scorecards, but they made it seem as though Ramos had this whole thing. But yeah, I had 29-28. Honorable mention for Mike Bell and Eric Colon. The next one is Spencer versus Dumont. And this one was a little weird because the first was very close. Very close. The thing that separated to me Dumont winning that first was the fact that they didn't throw a lot in that first, but Dumont landed the heavier shots and the more shots, really. So that kind of went for her. That I gave her the round for that reason. But overall, it was 29-28 for Dumont. That's my scorecard, with me giving her a 10-9 in the first 2 rounds. Saul D'Amato had it 30-27 Dumont. Brian Minner also had a 29-28 Spencer, and Camijo had it 29-28. His scorecard reflects my scorecard. So the honorable mention is going to go to Saul D'Amato and Minner, and for Saul D'Amato, it's for the third round. I'm actually not going to give him an honorable mention because that third round was very close. It was very, very, very close. And the reason I say it's very close is because in that third round, Dumont gets a takedown with very little ground and pound. Very little ground and pound. And they were both and they were both kind of even on the feet a little bit. In that first half of that third round. And in the second half of that third round, Felicia was landing much more frequently. She had some good shots in the clinch, good elbows in the clinch, and ended in top position. Now, I think she did enough in that second half of that third round to steal that round. I don't think Dumont did enough. But, again, Dumont got a takedown in that first half. She had a little bit of ground and pound. The round was kind of close to me, that I'm not really mad at Saul for giving that round to Dumont. I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to give an honorable mention there because I think it's a toss-up. I actually think you could have given either one for that third round. Now, for Minner, I don't think. I definitely think he gets an honorable mention tag for that one, because that one's a little stuffy. In that first one, they're feeling each other out, and Dumont lands the most shots. She lands the better shots. She lands the heavier shots. I don't want to say outstrikes her, because it's a small margin, right? I only like using that term for a bigger amount of numbers. She lands the better shots, therefore I gave her the round. I don't know what he saw to indicate that Felicia had won that round. I'm sorry. I'm reading this wrong. He gave her the first round. I'm so sorry. He gave her the first round. Okay, I'm getting this back. Okay, let me take back what I said. So, say what I said about D'Amato. Minner gives a 10-9 to Felicia in the second. Okay, now we're heated. Okay, because I was right. Erase what I said. So, Brian Minner gives a 10-9 to Felicia in the second round. Now, this is where we get into, are you watching the fight category? In that second, Dumont actually outstrikes Spencer with some heavy shots. This is a clear her round. The other two judges had it the same way. I don't know how he saw it otherwise on that, but that's where we get it. In that third round, he gives it to Spencer, which is fine. I'm not really mad about it. Again, I think any judge could have given it. That one's fairly close. But in that second, it's clearly for Dumont. I don't see how he sees it the other way. That honorable mention goes to Brian Minner. Then in the next fight, which I thought was, I think, the easiest fight to score next to Hermansson versus Shahbazyan. I thought this was the easiest fight to score on the cards. The easiest. Apparently, they weren't, because when Bruce ran up the scorecards, I heard anything other than a 30-27. Again, I had it 30-27 for Vanderaa. And the judges had it. Mike Bell had it 30-27. Tony Weeks had it 30-27. And then Eric Colon out of nowhere decides, hey, let me give one round, like a consolation round, to Tafa. Now, in that third round, it's still the same story as the other two rounds. The only difference is that Tafa's volume goes up. His volume goes up, but he's still being outstruck. He's still getting outstruck. I'm sorry. In that second round, his volume is up. In the third round, it's the same as the first, actually, where Vanderaa is just still hitting him with more shots. So I don't know how you don't just decide, hey, these three judges are virtually identical, that this should be a 30-27, but this feels like like a free round to Tafa. But that honorable mention goes to Eric Colon for that weird scorecard that I thought should have been 30-27 on all three judges' scorecards. Then we go to Xiaonan versus Esparza. This one is weird because it's not weird, actually. It's not weird. This is fairly easy, but everyone keeps saying it's a 10-8 because for some reason people hate 10-8s, but then they like 10-8s, right? But I think they're missing something here. Just like in that fight that I mentioned back where McGee versus Silva, right? Two judges, I believe, had a 10-8 for that round because he was on top most of the round, but they still failed to mention that in this first round, yes, Esparza takes down Xiaonan, but Xiaonan is active from the bottom. Okay, she is active from the bottom. Correction. Esparza got 2 takedowns, and Xiaonan was very active from the bottom. She didn't just lie there and get beaten up by like Shahbazyan did in the final round. No, she was very active enough to make sure that she secures losing 10-9. But instead, two judges, or just one judge, has a 10-8 when the other two judges correctly have a 10-9. That honorable mention goes to Mike Bell. And then we are in the final honorable mention, Font versus Garbrandt. This one I thought was fairly easy, but the first round is very close. I'm not really mad at anyone for the first round. I thought you could have given it to anyone. My reasoning for giving Garbrandt the first round, though, is he had two takedowns. Both were kind of mixed in different parts of the fight. And while not much was taken, if not anything was taken from those two takedowns, it was fairly even on the feet. It was fairly even on the feet with Font giving up the heavier shots. He was landing the much heavier shots in that first round, but they were both pretty even on the feet, and Garbrandt mixing the takedowns. That's my reasoning for giving out the 10-9. Everything else on the scorecard is a 10-9 for Font. My scorecard reads 49-46. The judges' scorecards read 49-47. I'm sorry, 48-47 by Derek Clearly. 50-45. Again, I'm not mad at that first. And 50-45. My issue goes to Derek Clearly. Now, when this scorecard was being read, I thought, where did he get the? I really thought to myself, where did he get the second round? Because again, I understood the first. I understood the first going to Garbrandt. But I didn't get where he got the second round. I think that was the most confusing part to me. And then I looked at the scorecard and I saw a 10-9 in the fifth round. Now I'm thinking to myself, this looks like another consolation round where the obvious winner of this round, is Font. Okay, this round reflects the same thing as the third round, which is Font is outstriking Garbrandt significantly. Garbrandt is giving out a bigger output because in the second, third, and the fourth, the output is low, and in the fifth, he finally picks it up, and both are kind of landing heavy shots on each other. Garbrandt's getting him with some heavy shots, and then Font gets him back with some heavy shots. The only thing they're even on here is maybe the amount of heavy shots they gave each other. Other than that, Garbrandt is getting outstruck significantly, and for some weird, odd reason, Derek Clearly decides, hey, let me give a 10-9 to Garbrandt for no specific reason. That is a bad round scored by Derek Clearly. That's all I have for this card. It's a great card because there are no injustices. I'm fine with coming on here every week and just going, this individual round is scored. I think that still needs to be fixed up because that could fuck somebody over badly. But, and it probably already has fucked somebody over badly, but all the scorecards read the correct winner, and that's what mattered the most. Once again, thank you for listening, and God bless.